And this show that I'm going to do today is one that I've been thinking of that I wanted to do on Christmas. It's a very human story, and basically it's this. As an activist, presidential advisor, and co-founder of the Enough Project and the author of 10 books on Africa, including his most recent, The Enough Moment, John Prendergast is known as a go-to man on human rights. Whether he's traveling to Africa with George Clooney or meeting President Obama about Sudan or writing books with Don Cheadle, John is passionate about ending genocide and raising awareness about human rights issues in Africa. But the not-so-public face of John Prendergast is the life he's led as a big brother to Michael Mattocks. As an emotionally wounded, his own description, 20-year-old, John made the life-changing decision to form a big brother-little brother relationship with then 7-year-old Michael, who was living out of plastic bags and roaming from one homeless shelter to the next with his mother and siblings. And this year, in a book that they wrote together, Unlikely Brothers, Our Story of Adventure, Loss, and Redemption, John and Michael share their experiences over the past 25 years as their two lives intertwine. Now, as John became more and more involved with Africa, he became less and less involved with Michael, who in turn dropped out of school, dropped into drug dealing, and as the years went by, the two slowly disconnected. But they reconnected at a critical moment for both of them, and this book tells the story of all of that. John Prendergast is the co-founder of the Enough Project, an initiative to end genocide and crimes against humanity affiliated with the Center for American Progress. He's worked for the Clinton White House, the State Department, 2 members of Congress, the National Intelligence Council, UNICEF, Human Rights Watch, International Crisis Group, U.S. Institute of Peace. He is the author or co-author of 10 books. His previous 2 books were co-authored with John Cheadle, Not on Our Watch, and the Enough Moment, Fighting to End Africa's Worst Human Rights Crimes. John is a board member and serves as strategic advisor to Not on Our Watch, the organization founded by George Clooney, Matt Damon, Don Cheadle, and Brad Pitt. He's been a youth counselor, a basketball coach, and a big brother for more than 25 years. Michael Mattocks lived in homeless shelters as a child and began dealing drugs as a teenager. He is now a husband, a father of 5 boys. I know that one of his boys' birthday is today, and that he and his wife have another child on the way, and he's hoping for a little girl. He works 2 jobs at once in order to support his family, and he helps coach his sons and their family. Welcome, Michael.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. And John.
Thank you so much for having us, Ted.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Now, I like listeners to get to know the people behind the work and the ideas, often the books and the projects and so on that we talk about on the show. Given the topic of your book, that's not going to be a problem. So, sort of in the other way, before we jump into your personal lives, alone and together, let me ask each of you to briefly talk about your path to the work you do in the world, and then we'll go in and we'll deal with all the personal stuff. So, John, your path to what you're doing today.
Well, I am now, for the last 28 years, I guess, have been working in human rights and promoting peace in Africa. But, of course, no one is a teenager thinking they're going to do that for a career. So I basically, at the age of, I think, 21, was watching late-night TV and too lazy to get up to turn the channel. This is before remote controls existed, and all of a sudden pictures of the famine in Ethiopia came on the screen, and this is the Great Famine in 83 and 84 and 85 that ended up spurring the Live Aid and We Are the World, all those kind of things that got everybody interested in Africa for a minute. But I was deeply affected by the pictures, the photographs of these people huddled over little fires, no shelter, no food, obviously thousands and thousands of kids starving to death. And I just decided I was going to go and try to understand better directly how our world, which back in the U.S. seems, even though it's unfair and inequitable, still plentiful compared to that. And I just want to understand how people could literally starve to death in the 20th century. So that once I went and learned a lot about what was happening there, I decided to make my life's work about reducing the effect of some of the wars and some of the famines on the most vulnerable people in the world.
Okay, and Michael, your path to the work you do today.
Well, what I do today is I basically do motivational speaking.
Ah.
For teenagers and little kids. I'm connected up with this club, there's an organization called Free Minds Book Club. I do a lot of stuff with them, little motivational speaks. They do a lot of stuff with jails. They actually help the kids in jail and help them while they get out of jail. And I go to a lot of functions that they host. Matter of fact, I just took my boys to one last week on Tuesday, and it was wonderful. So basically that's what I do. I'm trying to get the message out about the mentoring thing, and basically telling my life story, trying to help others out with their life story, because I've been through so much where basically my life story can help, other people out. They ask me how did I change and a lot of other things, so I sit there and I break it down to them, and it helps. It really helps.
In other words, you're hoping that they learn from your mistakes and your redemption. Yes.
Because right now, as we speak, I'm on the right path with that. So I'm trying to keep it going strong. So my motivational speaks is so wonderful. It's so wonderful. Trust me.
Very, very good. Okay, Michael, I understand that you proposed to John that you two write this book together. Why?
Because, I looked at it, I say, he doing books with Don Cheadle, this and that. I say, you know what, this is my brother. We need to tell us a story. We got a story to tell too, a nice, wonderful story to tell too that I think people will be real interested in, reading, which they are. It's a real good story about me and him. You learn two lives between two different people, which is life between John and life between me, and it's totally different than how we come together, and that's amazing. You get this one kid that's from this bad drug dealer neighborhood, and you get this other guy that's, White House and, working for these people, and that's my brother, and we still brothers, So it's a wonderful story to tell,
And John, when he approached you, what was your response?
Well, man, I mean, this back in the day, this was inconceivable. That when we first met and all those years that we would have been in a place where we could actually rationally sit down and kind of reflect over these things. But by the time we got to where we are now, it seemed like there's a narrative, there's a thread here of our two lives being able to come together that could be a really compelling story for other people. It's hard sometimes to make the link. It's like you think, well, how's my life going to be something that people will be interested in? How, but then I could see it in relation to Michael, not just on my own. And so when my story of my life is added to Michael's story of his life, and we tell it together, and we're having different perspectives on the same things going chronologically, then it becomes, I think, it became really compelling to me once I started thinking about it. But I have to admit, when he first brought it up, I was like, yeah, right. But then he started again. He was working on me, and I was like, yeah, maybe that is interesting. Maybe we could do something here. And then the more we thought about it, and the more we kind of reflected on the old things that happened and back in the day, it became like for both of us, I think, the burning desire to get this story out there and tell as many people as possible.
The form of the book is interesting in that it's a kind of a duet where you go back and forth, and as you were just saying, John, that way you get each of your different perspective on a different time or a different set of events. Did that just happen right away? Was it, just a little bit about the writing process, and then we're going to get into the story.
Well, I think first we had to figure out, well, do we write the book as we did this, we did that, or do we write the book as I? And how are we going to do it if we write an I? We have to have our own sections. And I think trying to write a book together, literally, there's just too many things that you do on your own that is impractical. So we decided, okay, we got to do it individually. And so Then we just had to start telling stories. Then we had to go back in our own lives, because it's one thing to talk about how our lives are together, but unless you know the motivations and the backstory, then nobody cares. So I had to go back into my past and my childhood and understand what my motivations were. Michael had to go back in his early years, earliest memories he could conjure up, and develop the story of how he got to where he was when we first met, and all that kind of introspection. And both of us interviewed a lot of people that were in our past, so we would remember things, because it's not all on total recall. And it was a really interesting process, just going back into time in both of our lives and finding people who remembered things that even we didn't remember about our own lives, and be able to sort of trigger new memories and really plunge the depths of what makes us who we are.
And Michael, you, as we said, you proposed this idea. Once you got into it, what was that process like to you? I'm sure unlike anything you'd ever done before.
Yes, it was. It wasn't unlike anything I'd ever done before, because I'd never written a book or nothing. And it was strange, but long process. But it was also good too, because it helped me out in the long run. I opened up a lot of stuff that I held in the inside. What I'm saying, which it came out. So that was a good thing that it did come out.
Yeah, and I believe that happened. I believe that same thing happened for you, John. Right?
That's right, exactly.
Yeah. So let's begin the story of Unlikely Brothers, our story of adventure, loss, and redemption. So, Michael, I'm going to ask you first. Let's set the scene. What was your life like at the point that John enters?
Well, before John entered our lives, we was, it was always a little shaky for us. You know what I'm saying? Doing a little homeless shelter thing, carrying around our little trash bags, and it was just a sad situation.
And how many brothers and sisters are there? And I know that your mom for a while had a partner, and then he suffered an aneurysm and disappears from your life. But when you talk, so we get this picture of the hefty bags and the shelters. How many of you are making this move each day?
It was 4 brothers and 2 sisters.
Wow. And your mom.
4 brothers and my mom. And it was crazy, because being that small and carrying around, I think about it, carrying around them hefty bags. At that time we we just marching on with my mom. But at that time, you like, wow, we was really carrying around hefty bags. We on the bus. We never know where we going to sleep that night. You know what I'm saying? My mom, she would always find us a way, somewhere to sleep for that night. I don't care what time we went to bed or whatever. It was, we were small. We knew what was going on, and then we didn't know what was going on. We just know we didn't have no place to stay. It was always these schools, these rundown shelters, run-down motels, the filthiest thing you've ever seen, and I actually ride past them things. They still exist. I still ride. I get emotional when I ride past them.
I bet.
I really do. I get emotional.
And yet she was able to keep you all in school through all this?
Yes. We all were still in school. We could get to the shelter at 1 at night.
Oh, my God.
We still had to get up in the morning and go to school. So we really didn't get too much homework done. The only work we got done was in school, because we was mainly trying to find out where we were going to sleep that night.
Wow. And this went on for how many years, Michael?
This went on for probably, let's see, wow. Oh, man, probably about 4 years.
Wow. Okay, and John, your life at that time.
Yeah, I was. I grew up all over the Midwest. My dad was a frozen food salesman, so we moved around a lot. And I was and then once it was time for college, I went to 5 different undergraduate schools. So the time I met by the time I met Michael, I was just a sort of a drifter, and just grazing around different issues, trying to find what I wanted to do in this world. And so I came. I visited a friend of mine that day. At that time, I was really still sort of fixed on the idea that I'd be working on domestic issues, sort of on education and employment issues for young people, how to improve quality of education, especially for people who are potential dropouts or left out of the system. But I was pretty much somewhat of a loner, kind of moving around a lot, and so I was the least likely candidate, I think, to make a commitment at that point in my life. We actually met.
And you visited a friend at a shelter, and that happened to be the shelter where Michael and his family were at the time?
Yeah, just randomly. One of my buddies, one of the schools I had gone to, one of the colleges I had gone to was Georgetown University, and he also had dropped out, and he went over. He was actually working in a homeless shelter. He was running this social service thing, and so I went over just to visit him, just say hi, and I was hanging around and going to help volunteer a little bit at the shelter with him. And that's when Michael and his little brother James came tearing into the room one afternoon, and I was captivated by these young guys. They were so full of life and fun and just kind of interest. And so we just hit it off and decided to head out to the library and work on a little bit of reading and just goofing around, and we had a blast, and I just really liked, and I kept coming back and kept seeing the kids, and we just forged this sort of informal brotherhood with Michael and myself and his little brother James that just emerged on the basis of how much we enjoyed hanging around together.
And again, you're 20 or 21, and he's 7 or 8, and James is a couple of years younger.
Yes.
Yeah. So the one thing I'm going to touch on that's a little bit out of the chronological order here is both of your father issues, because I think it's important, especially given the role that you took with each other. Both of you, in a way, were traumatized by father issues in different ways. Michael, first, your own father wasn't there, then Willie was. Talk a little bit about just your lack of a father.
Well, Willie was there. My dad wasn't there, and Willie, he took care of us. That's who I thought was my dad. And right now in the day, I still consider as Willie was being my dad, because he the one that I knew of taking care of us. My father, real father, came in life, later on down the line, and we had built a little relationship, but he passed a couple of months ago. But that was like a trauma, like when I first found out who my real dad was.
Mm-hmm.
That was a painful situation, being a little child and thinking one person your dad and finding out somebody else your dad. That was real hurtful.
Yeah.
That was real hurtful. But that's why, I got my sons, and I would never leave my sons. I will always be my sons till they get old.
Yeah. Yeah.
Always.
Yeah. And John, your situation with your father.
My dad, when I was a little guy, was my hero. But when I sort of got up to the age of 7, 8, 9, when you start to form your own opinions about things, and you get more potentially confrontational, it did not work out well. We had a tremendously difficult road that was very, very volatile over the years, and I did not look at him or speak to him for perhaps 15 years.
And some of those years, John, you were still living in the same house and eating at the same dinner table.
Oh yeah, and I would just not. I would act like he wasn't there, and
wow.
Of course this would drive him crazy. And he was a pretty volatile guy. So So we get pretty hairy in there, and it dominated our family life, this sort of confrontation between my dad and me, and we didn't heal it until way down the road, until I was in my 30s.
Wow. I'm Terrence McNally, and that's the voice of John Prendergast. My other guest is Michael Mattocks. John got involved with Big Brothers when he was about 20, and he became a big brother to Michael, who was 7 at the time. And we're talking about their relationship over 25 years and a book that they've written together about it called Unlikely Brothers. Let me. So we have this. Michael's living shelter to shelter. John shows up just to visit a friend. They go out to the library. They go out, and then you strike up this thing. Were you, John, already involved with Big Brothers, or did that become a way to formalize what was happening spontaneously?
Yeah, I didn't really know about it, and I was more interested in sort of policies as opposed to individual people. And so when we first started hanging around together, it just dawned on me that this would be the kind of mentoring, sort of tutoring relationship that could really make a difference. And so we never really became a formalized big brother, little brother program relationship. Later, I joined the Big Brothers program and had other young kids where I lived in Philadelphia and then back in D.C. But with Michael and James and his brothers, we were basically family. It transcended any kind of program. We just never enrolled in anything. It was just de facto. We just were brothers to each other.
So, Michael, talk a little bit about, we heard from John the first time that you met and how he was struck by your liveliness and vitality and so on in what looked like difficult circumstances. What was your response to John the first time, or as your relationship began to blossom? Who was this guy?
Well, in the beginning, he was a strange guy, you know what I'm saying? Because, you think about it, like, things just don't happen like that. He was like an angel, you know what I'm saying, in a little kid's life. Things like that just don't happen. We see this strange guy, don't know who this guy is from day one, just pop up in our lives, you know what I'm saying? We was at the right place at the right time, you know what I'm saying? And, we see him, he spoke to us, we rushed him all. We weren't about getting our little change or whatever, so, he asked his buddy who we were. His buddy told him who we were, and from there it was like on, he asked us did we know how to read. We told him a little bit. We know how to read a little bit, and next thing you know, we started going to the library, and he formed a bond with us, that was like, you couldn't break at all, and we started loving this guy so much, because he was like, we started having so much fun with him. We started getting something that we never had got before, you know what I'm saying? And that was this fun guy that's showing us different things, and when he did that, it was like a done deal. We wanted to see John all the time, you know what I'm saying? And I wish it was more Johns out there, that would do it for the kids now, you know what I'm saying?
Sure,
we need
sure.
more Johns out there, plain and simple, because, even though I got screwed up late, late on down the line, but at that time, being that little kid, we was having that fun.
Yeah.
We didn't have time to get in no trouble. He would always come pick us up, take us through this, do that, basketball, football, fishing, riding around in this little station wagon. When there ain't no little station wagon, a big station wagon. We just doing fun things. And, it was amazing to have this strange guy that made this bond with us, and we started loving him. And he was loving us to death, too. He had a lot of fun around with us at the same time, too. So it was good.
And it was mostly you and James?
Yeah, it was mostly me and James at the time. Then, a couple of times my sister came along with us, And then when my little brothers, they got old enough, they started coming along with us too.
Very good. John, just maybe I find that a story sometimes is best in moments. So a couple of moments from those years with fairly young John and young Michael and James.
Well, I think that the most memorable times were probably one, the fishing, the boating expeditions we take. We get out on the Potomac River and we go out on little boats and we go across to that island out there. I forget the name, Roosevelt Island, and I mean, to us it was just sort of like in another planet. You know, go discovering around, go adventuring around on that island, and come back. And then back then in that area of D.C. was really undeveloped, so it was really, we're just kind of out there on our own. It was just a lot of fun, and then I guess going on little trips, going to Philly and going to other places. We used to love to just get in that station wagon and go places, and I think we had a lot of fun on the road, you know, just going on road trips and discovering stuff and keeping our eyes open and just seeing what the heck's going on in the world. And I think those are the things I remember.
Yeah, I'm as you're saying that, I grew up part of my time in like junior high school in Jacksonville, Florida, which is a big city, but going down by the St. Johns River, I have a feeling was like what you guys were doing. It was like
same thing,
another world.
Yep.
What was folks' reaction to this long-haired white guy and these young black kids?
Oh, man, it was crazy, John, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely, man. People didn't know what to make out of.
Yeah, cause my mom had problems with my aunts because they were like, why are you letting this white guy come in here, you know, taking them boys? You don't know what they doing to them boys. You need to stop letting them boys, you know what I'm saying? But It wasn't even like that. It was like, you know, John did fatherly things with us, man. That, you know, we didn't never have, like I say, parks and reading and basketball and boating and fishing. You know, all them things he taught us. You know what I'm saying? And all them things he actually taught us, I do with my sons right now.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And I'm telling you, I do exactly, maybe fish, basketball, football, you know, I mean, we do all that. And I learned all them things from John.
And John, you actually moved Michael and his brothers to Philadelphia for summer. How did that happen?
Well, there was I got a little wind of from D.C. Social Services that there was possibility that given all the instability in the family going from shelter to shelter that they might consider putting the kids in foster care. I mean, it was never certain that they were going to do it, but it was a worry. And so I went to Michael's mom, Denise, and said, what if I reduce the pressure here and take the three oldest, Michael and James and Sabrina, to D.C., to Philadelphia, and they can live with me for the summer. I got all my buddies and my family and other people can help out. And then you got the younger kids, and that would make it easier for you to sort of get straight, get on your feet, and find a way to keep the family together. And so it was really just a sort of a family preservation approach, and I didn't know what the heck I was taking on here, because I don't know how to cook. I don't know. I mean, I'm absolutely all thumbs, and I just, so it was really an adventure because we had to all do it together. There was no real sort of father figure. It was just all of us fending for ourselves, trying to figure out over the course of the summer where our next meal was coming from. But we made it through, and we had a blast.
So I'm Terrence McNally. That's the voice of John Prendergast, and my other guest is Michael Mattocks, and they've written a book together, Unlikely Brothers, Our Story of Adventure, Loss, and Redemption, and we're going through that story right now. Michael, what was that summer like for you guys?
Oh, my God. Man, that summer was fun. I mean, we was in another place that we, like I say, we was in a place that we didn't really know nobody, but everybody loved us. You know what I'm saying? Everybody loved us. Every last friend John brought us to or whatever, they liked us. You know what I'm saying? And we up in Philly, and we having fun that whole summer. We had fun. You know, we met new people and new kids. We running around with the new kids, and you know, I mean, it was fun. It really was.
And I'm sensing you also had stability that summer.
Yeah.
One place for the whole summer,
yes,
right? One home.
Place, yes.
Yeah.
One place for the whole summer. So that was a good thing.
Now, John, I'm curious. Oh, let me tell people, by the way, this is KPFK 90.7 FM, 98.7 in Santa Barbara, streaming and podcasting at kpfk.org. I'm Terrence McNally. This is Free Forum. We're at about the halfway mark. John, so you really you show up there and you say to your family, you know, by the way, I've got these 3 kids for the summer. How was your family? And I'm curious where your relationship with you and your dad fits in at this moment.
Yeah, it was crazy because although they lived most of the time in the apartment I had down in Philly, that we'd also go out to suburbs where my mom and dad lived, and we'd stay over there sometimes. And crazily, you know, I had just literally no communication with my dad, but he, I'm sure Michael can testify to this, was incredible with the kids. I mean, he was such a great sort of grandfather figure, and despite the fact that, you know, he could have just turned his back on it because it involved me, he sort of just overlooked the elephant in the living room, which was our relationship, and just jumped right in head first into the kind of caring of for the kids. And my mom was just really great. You know, she cooked the meals. She, you know, was very loving but very disciplining towards them, so making sure that they were always minding their P's and Q's. So she played a really important role, I think, early on in their lives, just like she had for me and my brother, my biological brother. And so I think it was great. Like, they really just jumped in and helped out without a lot of explanation, you know, because I wasn't talking much to family at that point.
And Michael, what did you notice what was going on between John and his dad?
I never knew. We never paid attention, you know what I'm saying, because, you know, we small, we love, you know what I'm saying, Mrs. P, Mr. P, and John. And Mr. P, I'm talking about, we had so much fun with him where we didn't even notice that him and John didn't have a good relationship. You know, I learned about that in the book, you know.
That is wild.
I never seen that.
That
you know
is wild. Yeah. And you and John had never talked about it either.
Never.
That is amazing.
And I never knew that it was like that at all, because when we would go up there, you know, Mr. P would put us in that station wagon and we'd be gone. You know what I'm saying? We'd be gone. We had so much fun with Mr. P, and he had a lot of fun with us too.
So you had a granddaddy too.
Yes, he used to have so much fun with us. I mean, for real.
So
you know, we coming up, he'd be so happy.
That is great. That is great. Now let's take it. I don't know exactly how many years, but there's a point at which you become involved with Africa, John. And you, as you said, you'd been focused on domestic policy and homeless and education and so on. And how did your involvement with Africa start?
Well, it was really that thing I was telling you about earlier when I saw the pictures of the Ethiopian famine, and I went.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, well, I mean, to take it from a sudden dawning to actual action, you just did. How long between the time you see the commercial, the time you're in Africa?
Well, at the time, part of the reason why it was longer than I hoped is I had gotten an injury from playing basketball, so I had the cast or actually there was a precast. I think I had the cast put on the next day, but I had the ice on there and I had the ankle up, and it's part of the reason why I didn't get up and change the channel. I think my whole life I would have been a sports writer right now had I not had that injury. But
I can hear that.
I mean, so I just watched this thing and I was like, and it just bowled me over. And so then, I crushed around. I actually had to go to D.C. to go to all the embassies to see which embassy would give me a visa to go to, like, Africa. Like, you can't just go. You got to get a visa and permission from the country to come in a very formalized way. And the first few countries I tried to go to, I went to their embassies. They didn't give me a visa, so I finally ended up getting one from a country in West Africa called Mali. And it's just one of these things where serendipity or divine intervention. When I was on the plane traveling from Paris to the capital of Mali, a city called Bamako, a guy on the plane from Mali recognized me from the old days playing hoops up at the Georgetown gym, and he was like, "What are you doing?" and just took me under his wing. And it turned out he was a major kind of official in the Malian government's agriculture department. So all the issues that I was interested in, food security, why people are hungry, why they starve, like what's going on with all these issues, he was an expert in, and he took me under his wing, and we just traveled all over the southern and central part of Mali, and it was just incredible. It was like a crash course in.
I was going to say, you get on the plane not sure exactly what you're going to do, and by the time you get off, your path is there.
I had no idea what I was going to do. I mean, in fact, look back on it and think what a crazy idea it was that I could just go to a place and think just by showing up there I'd get it, I'd understand it and be able to figure. And I didn't have hardly any money. I mean, I was pretty reckless, but it was, it was driven by this intense desire to understand how this could happen in our world, how people could suffer this greatly when we have so much.
Okay, so I'm going to fast forward a little so we can get through this. But what happens is this trip leads to more involvement, and you begin spending how much of your time in Africa?
Yeah, I'd say about half of the year I would spend in Africa, or a little bit more than half, and the rest of the time I'd be back in the U.S. I'd write articles and books and do radio shows and all kinds of things, try on TV and anything I could do to try to raise the alarm about some of the hot spots in Africa and the places where human rights issues and food security issues were most compelling and dire. And that's really, it was the pattern I spent till about 96, and then late 96 is when I got recruited to go into government.
Right. And Michael, what happens, how much less are you seeing John now, and how old are you when this begins to happen?
Let me see. I probably was about 9, John. I was about...
Yeah. I think you were 9, 10, right through the early part of your teen years, I was just gone.
Yeah, he was gone, like gone.
So the angel that had come into your life is now disappearing. What happens to you?
Yes. Well, at that time, we used to be so sad when John disappeared, because he was like I say, our angel, where it was like he shielded us and kept us, kept us motivated and as little kids and going, and then when he wouldn't show up, we'd be sad. But let me tell you this, he will always find us. I don't care where we were. And when we would see John, we'd be so happy. But we knew that he was going to be gone again. You know what I'm saying? We'd be so happy, but we knew that John would be gone again. You know what I'm saying? He'd come around, stay around for about 6 months, bam, he gone again. You know what I'm saying?
So you felt like the bond was still there, but but for a lot of the time, John wasn't.
Nah, he wasn't.
So
he wasn't.
At
he was out doing his...
At what point do you get pulled into the streets and drugs?
Wow. It all happened when we moved to a certain little location, which is a different side of town where we moved to, and he wasn't no longer around, and we started seeing things we never saw before, which is the drugs. The drug addicts, and you start seeing the drug dealers, and they got the fancy clothes and the jewelry, the fancy cars, and we seeing this stuff, and You know, John, he still come around. When he come back, we gone. But at the same token, you still watching these people like, man, that's what I want to do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And at this point, are you still in homeless shelters, or have you found a home?
No, we found the home at this time.
But you're still poor, and these people have something that looks pretty attractive.
Yes. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, the more he wasn't coming around, the more I was getting sucked into the street life.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm saying? The street life was amazing. You know what I'm saying? Because you basically can get anything. You know what I'm saying? The drugs, the women, and, you know, you seeing all this as a little kid, and you like, which you don't supposed to be like, man, I want to do that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I can hear it. Now, you at a very young age, you actually do some sales and find out that you're good at this and that you can put some money away very quickly.
Yes, and I was 11 years old.
Wow.
11 years old. So my first drugs. You know what I'm saying?
Now, were you also were you using at that age or just selling?
No, I was just selling at that age. I didn't even like, you know what I'm saying? Because I remember the drug dealer told me, don't never get high off your own supply. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, I was just, you know, selling. When you think about it, you're a little kid and you see that you can make a couple of $100, you're going to go make that couple of $100.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Now, when you're making that 100, are you bringing some of it home to Mom?
Oh, no, she would have whooped my tail.
So in other words, your family is still very poor, and
yes,
but you're making some real cash, which you have to keep secret.
Yes, for the time being, yeah.
So how now, again, fast forward so we can get John spending more and more time in Africa. You're attracted to this lifestyle. How deeply did you get into it?
Oh, man, I got deeply into it, where I became the big-time drug dealer of the neighborhood. You know what I'm saying?
At what age?
I became the big-time drug dealer of a neighborhood. I was selling big weight when I was 14 years old.
Wow. And
then when I turned 17, that's when the real deal started, where I was making money, where I was making anywhere from $1,500 to $3,500 a day.
Wow.
And I wasn't nothing but 17 years old. Didn't know what to do with all that money. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. You know, it's crazy.
Now, you're making money selling drugs. How close are you to guns and death?
Wow. Too close to guns and death. I had plenty of guns. I had all kinds of guns. You know what I'm saying? I almost got killed. You know, I almost got shot so many times. You know, but, you know, I didn't. You know, I almost did. You know, almost did. I had things happening to me out there, you know. I mean, but I escaped it, you know. I escaped it.
And you lost, but you lost people close to you.
Oh, man, yes. You know, as we speak, I lost majority of all my friends, you know, that I loved. And, you know, I lost my brother.
Now, how did your brother die?
Well, I had one brother, you know, got shot. I had another brother who committed suicide, and my other brother, he got killed in jail.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, and then I just lost my dad, and then I lost a lot of, I mean, when I say, like, friends, you know, I lost a lot of friends. One of my best friends got killed in front of me when I was smaller. I was 13 years old. I shot right in the head, you know. That was real painful there, too. So I lost a lot of people.
Now, what happens to a young person, and even though you're a hardened drug dealer at 17, you're still a young person. What happens to a young person who sees that much death and loses that many people around them?
Trauma. Trust me. I mean, I still, you know, I still go through it right now to this day, you know, over that because, you know, like I say, my friends and then my brothers and, you know, losing that many people that you love, you know, that's a painful situation. I think that's something that, you know, what heals me is my boys.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They put a smile on my face and my wife. You know what I'm saying? So that helps heal the process a little bit.
Let me see if I get what you're just saying, Michael. That's the voice of Michael Mattocks, by the way. I'm talking with Michael and John Prendergast, and John was a big brother to Michael, and they've written a book called Unlikely Brothers, which I highly recommend. You're saying that to this day, the pain haunts you, and it's your children and your wife that get you through it?
Yes. Yes, that's what keeps me going and happy, That's what keeps me going and happy. But I also sit sometimes and just think about, the people that I have lost, It's painful, it really is.
And let me ask you one last question about that period, Michael. Were you afraid that you would go to jail or that you would get killed? What allowed you to isn't there a great deal of risk in what you were doing?
Yeah, I know it was a great deal of risk. At that time, I didn't care. I really didn't. I didn't care at all. You know what I'm saying? Jail, I really didn't even look at it that way as the jail thing. You know what I'm saying? I always stayed 2 steps ahead of the police,
Mm-hmm.
I always stayed 2 steps ahead of them, even though I got caught out there, but I stayed 2 steps ahead of them. And the death, I wasn't really at that time caring because I had a lot of weapons. I kept a weapon on me. I kept guys around me who had weapons on them. So, at that time I really didn't care, till the time came,
What made you quit?
What made me quit? I was getting tired. I know my time was running out on the streets, I know my time was running out on the streets, and I just felt it, God gave me too many chances, and I was playing around with it, and it was just time. I knew it was. My body was, my mind was like, look, you either got some choices.
And what age were you then?
Wow, probably about 21.
Okay, so at about 21, you just start realizing that you're maybe not going to escape this. As you say, you were lucky. You managed to stay alive, but it's wearing down. And when you quit, was Nikki in your life at that point?
Yes.
She was.
Yes,
What role did she play in your quitting?
Oh man, she played a role, a heck of a role in me quitting because she basically kept it strong for me. When I first got my real job and I got that little paycheck I had, I'm like, man, I cried, because I got like $4.30 something on my check, and I'm like, I make this $4.30 in about 10 minutes, And I called her and I told her, I said, baby, man, I got $4.30 something on my check. She's like, what are you mad for? She's like, it's gonna be all right. You got to learn how to adapt yourself to working now. You know what I'm saying? And that I did. She never put me down, or nothing. But she was one of the ones that was so happy that I got up off the streets.
Yeah. And were you ever tempted to fall back in?
Trust me, I was tempted so many times because I had friends.
That's right.
I had friends that I could have went to front me 3-4 kilos. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm,
and I'm like out there on the street. You know what I'm saying? But I just didn't have it in me no more. It wasn't in me no more. I'm telling you, the hustling was not in me. I went from this cold-hearted hustler, gun-toting person where I didn't even have it in me no more. I just knew my time was running out, and if I get back out there, it was going to happen. I was going to go to jail, I was going to die, or I was going to stay alive, and I wanted to stay alive.
And
I knew what was going to happen.
How early did you have children?
I had little Mike. Little Mike is 14. But we do got an oldest son. That's my, stepson. But, I always say my son because I've been with my wife ever since he was like a couple of months. So
sure.
That's my son, too. But I had my first original son when I was in my 20s.
Okay.
He's 14. So, about 15 years ago. Probably about the same age, 21.
Okay. About the same age that John big brothered you.
Yes.
Yeah.
When I had my first child, I was still doing stuff, doing this and doing that, but it all, started slowing down. Then we had another son, you know what I'm saying? That's when, like, everything really started happening. Like, police was on me. They was ready to get me, and, just a lot of things. And I had a choice. I looked at the boys we had. I said, I love them too much to go to jail or be dead, because they're the ones that's going to suffer. They going to suffer the most if I'm in jail or dead. You know what I'm saying?
I got it, Michael. Okay, it turns out we've got about 5 minutes left. I'm sorry, but this has been so fabulous in terms of what you guys are sharing with me. John,
I'm ready.
You fall out of Michael's life during this period we've just been talking about. One thing I read in your book is that you refused to believe it was happening. Is that right?
I think it was a little self-serving because I was so overwhelmed by the work that I was doing in Africa, and I was coming back, and when I'd come back, I'd see Michael, I'd see the family, and Michael's mom was telling me that there were problems. Michael was saying, no, none of it's true, and I just didn't want to believe it. And so I turned the other way, offered a hand just as a friend, but not the kind of intrusive friend sometimes people need to shape up. So I failed him on that score. I in fact abandoned him at a deeper level, and because I just was too into my sort of new life, new world, and I feel it was one of the things that I regret more than anything for over the last 20 years was how I wasn't there for Michael when he needed someone the most.
But you say that when you started out this book or this project that you thought, this is going to be Michael's story of what a tough life he had, and that you're going to be, you're the one with the easy one, and so on. And it turns out that in your own life you battled major depression, et cetera, et cetera. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think having grown up in a somewhat abusive situation, and then marching off to Africa into war zones, as early as I could in my early 20s, went from frying pan to the fire in terms of trauma, and never dealt with any of it. And it accumulated, and I was walking around carrying a 10-ton weight in the pit of my stomach, and didn't know why, and thought it was normal, and deeply depressed. And so over time, say the last 5 years, working through issues, counseling, and going back into my own past for the purpose of this book, even writing this book, and all that. I mean, really, I finally faced a lot of the things that I had never faced before about my own life, and about the things that I've experienced, and began to address some of those, and allowed to see a lot of new light emerge that otherwise was fairly dark for many years.
And John, you have recently married, correct?
That is right.
And you, I think, from when I saw you speak at the Hammer, I sort of got the sense you are like looking at Michael and saying, maybe I could be a dad. How much did working on this book and reconnecting with Michael in such an intense way feed you?
Yep, I think it was crucially important that Michael's part of it. Again, the whole idea of the conventional story being that the older guy comes and helps the younger guy and somehow changes his life, and then rarely do we get the postscript where the younger guy comes back in the older guy's life, me, and when I needed to see that something was possible for me too, because often when you experience trauma early on, you don't feel a sense of entitlement. You don't feel like you deserve anything good, and so the idea that I could see Michael with being a caring husband, a caring father, happy, and may help me to believe that I could one day have that as well. As strange as that sounds, I didn't believe it for many, many years that I deserved that. And so now I've finally found the right person, and we got married just 6 months ago, and yep, looking at absolutely planning for the possibility of having my own kids. Not as many as Michael, but yeah, looking at one kid.
Yeah, Michael's already got another one on the way. I'll tell you what, we have to bring this conversation to a close. We're recording it prior to Christmas, but to the listeners, I hope that this was a good gift to you on your Christmas day. The book is Unlikely Brothers, and you can learn more about both John's humanitarian work and the book at enoughproject.org, enoughproject.org. You can listen to this week's conversation and many others anytime by linking to the podcast. You can sign up to have it delivered to you weekly. You can do that at my site, aworldthatjustmightwork.com, or terrencemcnally.net, or at iTunes. And you can sign up on my site or by emailing me TeMcNally, TeMcNally, at mac.com to get a weekly announcement telling you who's going to be on, what we're going to talk.
Thank you, Terrence.
You're welcome.
Listen, you guys have great holidays.
Okay, you too.
Okay.
Great holiday too.
Okay.
Yeah, great time. Thanks. Good talking to you.
Absolutely. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You guys.